Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Yes, very tired, but that's just normal, I think.
Yeah.
First things first, I just want to check that I'm saying your name correctly before I introduce anything. So is
Sure.
it Beckler?
Well done. No one ever gets it right.
Excellent. That's a great start then. I'm going to premise my this whole thing with I am not an interviewer by any stretch of the imagination, but I've written some questions down. So I don't know how much you know about how in-depth these people, and including myself, have gone into watching Heated Rivalry, but they've talked about, or we've all gone in depth talking about, obviously the intimacy coordinator, the hair, the makeup, but one of the really big things that we've discussed is like the set and the artwork and everything. And I was like, nobody has reached out at any point to anybody from the art department as far as I'm aware. So I was just like, do you know what? I'm going to see if I can reach out to somebody because there's questions that we want to answer. So, and then I found, I think I just found your website, and then I was staring at all the sets that you'd made on your website. Just
Oh,
amazing.
nice.
So I thought, obviously, if we could start talking about how you got into doing set design, if that would be okay with you.
Yeah. Um, I I was in the theater for 30 years as a set and costume designer. And uh, as as great as the opportunities were that I had, because I did get to work internationally a little bit, and I was busy as I wanted. That's not true. Often busy as I want it to be, but there's you just can't make a living at it. So like a one that includes a retirement, you know.
Yeah.
So in 2019, I'd already taken one step out. I was trying other things as well, like doing a couple of shows a year, but not really not wanting it or expecting it to be my career anymore. And then in 2019, some other theater people I knew called. They were going to work on a Christmas movie, and did I want to be part of it? And none of us knew what we were doing. It was a really busy season that year in film and TV, and so they were hiring newbies uh, above their station, and it was horrible. And um, I've never been so tired in my life. And at the end of it, I kind of went, "Well, I can do this. This has got potential here." So um, I was on contract to do Spamalot at the Stratford Festival in Canada. We have our own. So that was going to happen in the winter. And by the summer of 2020, I wanted to be back on a film set. And then, of course, COVID happened.
Yeah.
But our industry opened up again by the summer of 2020. And then I worked all the way through the pandemic on film or TV or web series or whatever.
Cool.
It just took off because it was kind of, it was the Wild West at that point. All bets were off. Nobody was really able to do what they thought they would be doing. And so I got a lot of opportunity, and it was great. So I've been doing film and TV ever since. I have dipped back into theater a couple of times. I went back to Stratford for Le Cage aux Folles, but our industry is quite seasonal here. It does wind down in the winter because it sucks to shoot in January and February here. So we try
That makes
not
sense.
to,
Yeah.
although we have and we did. And anyway, so that's been that. So last year we did a hockey movie in January and February, and while we were working on that, we got a call from Aiden, who is the production designer on Heated Rivalry. I work with a team. At the head of our team is the set decorator, who is James McCrindle, and then there's he's got me and Vanessa, who is another buyer. Eric is our lead, and then we've got some guys as dressers, and that's our core group. And then we often add to that. We've got others, So our core group on Heated Rivalry was our core group. That ideally we would just go from show to show to show together.
Cool.
So that's four dressers, another buyer, and a lead. Um, and Heated Rivalry was a grind, but it went really well. And established a really good relationship with Aidan and his art director Alder, and they were going back to Ginny in Georgia right after that. So they made it happen, and we've been with Aidan. We just wrapped that at the end of March, and we're gonna do a horror movie with Aidan, I think, starting next week, and then we'll go right into Heated Rivalry after that.
Amazing. Yeah, okay. Well, you've answered all of like my first four questions, which is like who, who is your team? How did you get onto Heated Rivalry? That's really that's brilliant already. So my question is then, so you've talked about James McCrindle's being the main set,
Decorator.
the decorator, sorry, yes. And then you and Vanessa being the buyers. So what are your responsibilities within this department then?
So this industry is a bit Wild West,
Fair.
and every team is different. So normally a buyer does the detail work that nobody else has time for. The sort and it depends on what the art department gives you. So generally what we get from Alder and Aidan are extensive technical drawings, lots and lots of floor plans. If they're building the set, we get the walls, we get all that. Sometimes we get a palette, sometimes we don't. Sometimes I have to make them pick a palette, sometimes I do it.
Okay.
So for Heated Rivalry, because we were still establishing a relationship with Aidan and Alder, we didn't know how they really worked. And as you're trying to establish your relationship with a department like that, it can take some time. So what ended up happening was I panicked early on by counting all the hotel rooms. So what ended up, and Aidan was asking for boards from us. It's like in reference boards, and no one had ever asked us that before, and that was not anything that I thought was really our job. But because of my design experience, I'm like, cool, I can do that. Let me get on that. So I did boards for every single hotel room. I, picked the color, picked the design, sourced it. They gave me paint colors when they knew it, bedding, blah, 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 all of it. Put it all on one board. So every hotel room has a board. And by that point, Aidan was like, oh, I see what you can do. And so he has given me a fair amount of latitude as we go forward. James, as the decorator, I feed it all through him. I'll be on the road at some point and find something that we haven't discussed, but it would be perfect for a set, and I'll shoot him a picture. He'll say yes or no. But those two guys have so many plates in the air everywhere else that I get to jump into the detail of it and think through everything, including if I'm pulling dressing, where it's going to go. So by the time I'm sourcing for a set, I know what the set is. I know all of our surfaces, all of our, hopefully, I know all that. Well, Aidan trusts us. So that has turned into a really good relationship.
That's good.
At this point, by the time we wrap this production of Heated Rivalry, we'll have been working with them for 2 years. So we'll see how that goes. But it's great for us because he keeps working and he'll take us along with him. And so that takes the pressure. I haven't ever had to look for a job in this industry.
Good.
So it's, fingers crossed, and we'll see how it changes. But that's kind of how it's been going. Right. So short answer, I have the best job, I think. On Ginny in Georgia, we were in a fishbowl. Like his office was here, my office was here. There was a window in between, but we had the glass taken out so we could talk. Alder, the art director, was here, and Aidan was here. So I hear everything. I hear what's being talked about what's coming up. I get everything, and I can watch how they do their jobs really up close. And about halfway through Ginny in Georgia, I just went, I don't want your job, I don't want your job, and I don't want your job. I have the best job. So that's kind of how I feel.
As you said about James picking the art, the most like talked about thing in the show is the art pieces. Well, I'm just going to jump in, I guess. You said about hotel rooms and you made the boards for these hotel rooms. So when you say that, is it just the same hotel room and you just dressed it differently each time?
No. We built one set that I think was two. It was Tampa and Boston. There was another one that we built just for Toronto. We built Nashville was separate. And then we had some real hotel rooms that we shot in Hamilton, and I forget what those were. But I think those were two more. God, I don't even remember. So we did a bit of that switching around. Uh, but then Aiden went from beige wallpaper to beige wallpaper. I'm like, that's not enough. That's not enough of a difference to make it look like a different room. Um, uh, yeah, so there was a bit of that mix and match. Yeah.
Like even the art in the hotels, people were going, is there a reason that was, is that specific? Is it
I
symbolic?
Yeah, I've seen some of that. I've seen specifically them talking about the art in the strawberry in the
Yes.
smoothie shop.
Oh yeah. That's on my
And
list to talk about.
I just kind of laughed and said, "You guys, we don't have time for that. Like we really don't have time." We were doing over like we were averaging 3 sets a day, and sometimes those sets are in different cities, and so we're moving fast. Hopefully, you've got everything in your head. Like hopefully, James has everything in his head when he's picking the art, and he generally does. But those, I saw something about how one of the pieces in the strawberry was a reference to the publishing house that had released the book, something like that.
Yeah,
And I was like,
it's the piece that's got like
yeah,
the loops.
yeah,
So there's a show, it's an online game show, and it's called Dropout, and the game, or one way or the other, I can't remember. It's called Game Changers. And the book that Scott and Kip are in is called Game Changer. And the whole series is called Game Changers. So
right, okay.
I don't, if that's not
I,
intentional, that is the biggest coincidence in the world.
I wish I could say that we thought that, but we just didn't have time. Like,
That is incredible. That is
I
such an
will tell
incredible
you,
coincidence.
yeah, I will pass that on because that makes us sound like rock stars. We
Just
used almost exclusively just one cleared art house that we use for everything. Um, it's run by a woman named Mairead, and she's lovely, and she's a lovely person, and we want to keep her business going. She does all the cleared art, and we can book it online and pick it up whenever we need it. And I am going to try to get James to use other suppliers only because I think it starts to look the same
yeah.
if we don't. Um, and I feel particularly strongly about the art in Elia's condo that I didn't I like I it was so present, and I hated it right from the start.
Amazing, because this is probably some of the most loved stuff in the show. So
I
that's
know, because and you see
intriguing.
it all the time, and it drives me up the wall.
Yeah, but we like everybody, well, I want to say everybody really, really loves it. This is just stuff from the art house that was just picked.
It's not it, he puts more time in it than like that one, that one, that one, that one,
No,
that one.
I mean,
But
I know that there's got to
yeah,
be more to it.
we did use the house that we shot for Ilia's. The woman of the couple was a painter,
Mhm.
and we did use some of her work in it because it looked really great there, and it kind of looked like Russian Cyrillic a little bit. Um,
Oh,
I
was that the
don't know
black
that
and
you.
gold stuff? With the black and gold circles, and then there was some black with gold, like Russian
Yeah, and there's
Cyrillic
some.
on it.
I think it's squiggly almost, sort
Yeah.
of like little. Yeah, that was hers.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's the house owner's paintings. Cool, cool.
Yeah, that house was beautiful, and it was for sale when we shot, so I don't know if we're going back there. It'll be interesting. He gets traded anyway, I think, doesn't he, in those books?
Yeah, well, not traded, but he moves teams.
He
Yeah.
moved. Yeah, so we might not have to go back to that location anyway.
Yeah, he's gonna scoot off to Ottawa and it'll all be fine.
Yeah, until he gets to Ottawa.
This art is definitely picked because it looks like this moment and these, like that huge painting, the one behind the sofa.
Yeah,
And they're all saying this is picked. Now, maybe this was James' intention, like he saw the team colors in it, perhaps. And I love that. But there's the one
yeah,
above
maybe. Yeah,
above the bed in Ilya's house. Can
I don't
you
remember it.
hold on one
Do you have a
second?
screenshot?
I do, one second. Yeah, this is the one. Can you?
Oh, oh yeah, yeah. I think that's Mairead's. Her business is called In the Frame Rentals. Oh yeah, and it was not big enough, and it was too high,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I'm guessing these black, I mean, you can't quite see them in the shot, but I'm guessing these black things were to, like, black lamps were to apply a painting originally. So that
Uh,
was there something else there that they had to swap out?
yeah.
It
It
looks
was
like
one
two
of.
hockey players.
Oh, it
Couldn't get them.
does.
But a lot of people are seeing, have you watched the show yourself? Have you watched it through?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know the scene at the end when they're in the car, the credits, basically.
Oh my God, really?
So many people think that that's what that's a reference to. I'm like, how can it be? This is two episodes before.
Yeah, we didn't know what that shot was going to look like that. I will say that this kind of serendipity, though, can happen in a
Yeah,
creative process if if the if everyone is doing their best work, happy accidents like this can happen.
I
And
love it.
uh, I will take that win, but I love that idea. I wish we had known, but the only thing I know from this set is we got shit online for too many lights. And because we didn't do that. Camera brought the floor lamps up from the living room and put them beside the bed. And then those black ones in the wall were in the location. And I think there was, oh, and then we had lamps. We had brought lamps for the side tables. So people were calling us out for having too many lights. And it's like, that wasn't us. That was not our fault. Another happy accident. There was a set of two paintings in Ilya's condo um, that actually had titles, and one of them was called Ilya.
Which one?
So
You have to tell us.
if I saw it, I could tell you.
Is it on screen at some point?
Yeah, it's an abstract. Um, it's it's very much along the lines of the one over the bed, uh, but it's a little. It looks a bit like a Big Willie, which is why James picked it.
See, symbolism.
Yeah.
He
Yes.
knows.
Yeah.
I'm writing that down.
That was a choice for sure.
Right. Well, then if he picked that for sure, then he picked all of them for a reason, and now we know. That's brilliant. There seems to be like a running theme with lamps. Can you see this tiny? Let me just make it.
Yeah, is that the Russian restaurant?
No, this is the
Oh,
penthouse. Look how
okay.
many lamps are on in this.
Okay.
There's a
I
lamp
have
on
a
the drinks trolley.
like I get why there's a light on the drinks table. It was pretty dark. Um, the main focus on that set was the shiny floor, and we really wanted the shiny floor to read. There's a dolly shot when Shane walks in and they dolly across, and there's a shelf in the foreground, and they get to Ilya in the bed, I think. This is Vegas. You see it a little bit.
When he's dragging the chair, we probably see it.
That scene, yeah.
Yeah.
So I picked three of these lights, and the other two were thrown in at the last minute. So the thing about lamps is that with modern camera equipment now and so much more LED lighting has gotten, I guess, nimbler.
Yeah.
And you don't need as much of it, and we don't need rigs and trees and all of that stuff as much anymore. So DOPs now rely on us for a lot of practicals. So really anything that's getting made now probably has too many lamps in it because they look great in low light. And DOPs always want it, and they would rather have a lamp in the corner than a shadow more often than not, especially for something a little more commercial and certainly for TV.
And
So
especially for this type of show, I guess.
this show is really dark. Like at least the
Yeah.
first few episodes are really dark.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we just honestly, I felt like I had exhausted the rental lamp market in Toronto. Like there's one prop house that I swear I used every single lamp that we could use out of that stock, to the point where trying to find I'm wondering what I'm going to do now.
But yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense. Apart from anything else, these are two queer guys that probably don't want the big lamp on either.
Yeah.
And it looks nice from a romantic point of view. So I did get it from both the practical and the storytelling point of it. So it does make sense.
Yeah. Camera also puts their own bulbs in them called
Hmm.
Nix bulbs, and that they can control the level, and they end up being, when you see them in person, you're like, well, that's barely on, but the camera sees it differently, right? So um, once we give once we put a lamp on a set, it's kind of not ours anymore. Camera gets to do what they want with it.
Cool. Oh, see, this is all stuff we would never have known if we didn't ask.
We knew that we wanted to hang some lights in the Toronto hotel set instead of having bedside lamps, because again, we had a million bedside lamps and we're like, we got to do something different. So I found some 3D printed shades that were on Etsy that were made here, because that's the other thing too of my job is, what's this? How much is it? Where is it? And can I get it on time? That's my whole thing.
Hmm.
And these were made in a small company in Brampton. And he was really accommodating and really excited to have his product on TV, because I try to keep it small too, right? And local. I want to
Yeah.
spend as much of this money locally as we can. So when I can give money to small business or small makers, then I do. It just takes a little bit more time. But anyway, I hope he saw it and I hope he was happy.
No, I don't. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's sometimes really hard. I suppose again with a project like this with a quick turnaround, it's easier to not shop local sometimes. But
That's the
yeah, that's good.
problem.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of lamps, just one lamp you might not know that a lot of people asked about. So it's in episode 2 when they're in the big bathroom in Sochi.
Yeah.
It's the Eros and Psyche lamp.
That place was so weird. We didn't do anything in there.
You just walked in and it was there.
So the bedroom that Ilya's in, and I think it's when he's realizing his dad has
Oh, with his
dementia.
dad, yeah.
That bathroom was that bedroom's ensuite.
What?
Yeah, yeah. And over the mantle, and I think you can kind of see it if you know it's there, you kind of see it. But we were told the camera wasn't going to go that far. And the
Yeah.
edge of the mantelpiece there was this photo of the homeowners, but it was kind of like they were Marie Antoinette and King Louis, and it was kind of painted, but kind of a photo. We didn't do anything in that room. We brought a luggage rack. That was it. And in the bathroom, nothing. I don't think I even did towels in there.
Wait,
And it's the same house as the big staircase at the
that's someone's
cocktail party with the
house.
chandelier. Yeah, yeah. In that party scene, the only thing I did was floor lamps. I got like 8 or 10 matching floor uplight torchairs, and we put them everywhere. That's all I did.
Yeah. I think I knew a lot about the locations, but I did not know this was someone's house.
Yeah, I don't think anyone knows that.
That's insanity. And the fact that that's someone's ensuite.
Yeah, this house is a known location. Because if someone wants their house, or if they're open to having their house used as a location, there's a file, and
Yeah.
all the location guys go to the file. So I think this was a known place. The people that own it are never there. It was gigantic. It was one of those houses where you walk and walk and walk and walk and you don't get anywhere. And
Oh,
Ilya's apartment is in there too. His Moscow apartment is that house too.
it's part of the house, same house.
Yeah, it's on the main floor. This is the thing, right? Like, if our unit is going to move, we have to shoot the shit out of that location in
Yeah.
order to make that location work. The one thing about these guys that I knew even while we were doing it, they were spending the money in a really smart way. They spent the money on the locations so that everything else, we didn't have to compensate for a bad location. And we might have changed the curtains in there, like almost nothing. And that sort of thing buys you time so that when we're prepping the next thing, well, they're shooting that. We haven't had to worry about that location so much. It it was um, it was a really efficient way of shooting, I thought. And I appreciated, well, I'll say this too. When we first started prep, Jacob wanted us to avoid Home Depot where we could avoid, because this is right at the point where it was that 51st state bullshit from Trump. And have you heard the elbows up movement in Canada? Elbows
Uh,
up is it's an old hockey term. It's like get your elbows up, ready to fight.
yeah.
In retaliation to all this Trump stuff from the Americans, that was the Canadian rally cry was
Okay.
elbows up. And so again, it was that focus of trying to keep as much of the money in Canada as as we could.
Okay.
So anyway,
No, that's
that's
good.
it.
All right. That's that's really good to hear. I was going to ask about Jacob actually earlier on because I put him down and was wondering like how much did he have any input into to any of it, or did he just stay? Because I know he's like quite hands-on with stuff.
Jacob is amazing. Um, when we so first of all the scripts were ready when we started prep. That never happens. I don't know why. It never happens. We've started whole series where we don't know how it ends. And it's just like I don't know how you budget. I don't know how you like I just don't understand why that's not always the case.
Hmm.
When I watched episode 5, um, I went back to the script to see specifically how Jacob had written the kiss on the ice. The thing about Jacob is what he writes is what he shoots. And when we're on tech surveys, we all get on a bus, and it's the camera guys and the grip and the us and the art department and producers and Jacob and like everybody who's going to shoot this scene is on the bus. And James sends me because I take measurements that they never get. Right? They'll come back from a survey and they'll go, and we need curtains. I'm like, okay, how big's the window? How high is it? Like, did you measure it? Oh no, I forgot to measure it. It's like, okay, so let me just go and I'll do my own measurements and we'll be good. And so what happens is that we go from location to location to location, and everyone listens to what Jacob says. This is a scene where this happens. Ilya's going to be, and he knew Ilya will be here. I'm going to look this way and that way. We're never going to see any of that. Jacob is prepped up. He knows what he's going to do. And when he gets onto the set that day, all I ever heard him say was, "Oh, this is great. I can use it. I can shoot here." He never changed what he said he was going to do. Um, and it was always efficient and it was always clean. And what he said he was, and he never, pardon the expression, but we call it dick swinging when someone is just
Yeah, yeah.
trying to rationalize their paycheck. He doesn't do any of that. He's like thankful, appreciative of what's done. He recognizes the work that's been done. Um, if he wants to change something, it's never very big and it's never a compromise. And with a director like that, what do you want? Anything, whatever you want, let us know. We will do it for you because you're amazing. And he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, this is like across the board. I think everybody always speaks this highly of him. And it sounds ideal. I would love to work with a director like that. You hear such bad things about other directors, and then this one just knocks it out of the park every time. I've not heard anybody speak
Yeah,
badly of him. So,
like ego is the worst thing in this industry,
mhm.
and it runs away with people. And when you can work with people who don't have that ego, like I would work with him all the time.
It's so refreshing. It's really nice. And actually, somebody asked, how did you, because this whole series takes place over the span of what, 9 years? And I know that 9 years in the 2000s aren't that big of a difference, but was there anything they said that you did to help ground any of the sets, particularly in time? And also in place, because obviously we had three different countries there. We had the US and we had Canada and we had Russia, because Alexi's apartment is like smack bang. And I took a screenshot of Alexi's apartment and it's quite like definitely not in America or Canada. You can see it
Right.
very specifically.
That was a that we built that.
Okay.
That was on the volume wall. I'm not sure why it was on the volume wall. Part of it, I think, might have just had to do with the days that we were in using the volume wall to fill the days. How that ended up happening, there's another studio in behind where the volume wall is. And to maximize our time in there, because it's expensive, we had some standing sets in the studio set and then a set in front of the volume wall. So they would come in the morning and they would shoot the set on the volume wall, get done with that, go across to the other studio, shoot something over there. We would switch it out. They would, and they ended up going back and forth a few times. We had a few days like that just to maximize how much we could get done.
Hmm.
Like the airports, for example,
Yeah.
we're all in front of so we're all standing by. The unit leaves, we clear it, they come back, we shoot it again. So Alexi's, also because we didn't have a home studio on that one. Once we were done in the volume, it was all location after that. And Alexi's apartment was reconfigured Nashville hotel walls too, I think. That's also how efficient we had to be with that. So stuff got moved around, paint came in, did their thing, and then we came in. So that one was fun. Like there's a giant radiator on the wall in that scene. That I think helps
Yeah.
ground it. The set itself with the deep casement windows, and I think there's shutters and just the way the mullions are. And Alder, the art director, is really good at that kind of detail, that kind of architectural detail. And Aiden was trained as an architect as well. So he starts at the architecture of the room and goes from there. But the rest of it was just dressing.
Set
I
dressing.
fought them on that radiator. I said it was too big. I said that it's way too big for an apartment. You'd never have it that size. I lost. I think it works. I think it looks great, right?
Yeah,
And it's
it
one of the
doesn't
only,
overtake the scene.
yeah, and it's one of the only things that really sets the location because
Mm.
it's pretty spare otherwise.
And yeah, the other question was about anything that was to help put this any of the sets in the specific time periods, I guess.
Oh,
What of time
um,
period? Years, I suppose, is a better question.
yeah, not not as much because um, that kind of decoration doesn't change too much. Like it was way more of a consideration for Hannah, the costume designer,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
she added a lot of really great period details.
yeah,
Sometimes for us, it just feels like we do this blur in the background, so there was less of that. I think there were probably a few occasions where I pulled something that might have been too 2025 for something. I think that probably did happen, but we were less concerned about it than wardrobe was.
yeah,
Because the trick there is, for me, I think if you do kind of try to go 10 years ago, it just looks cheap and tacky to our eye. It looks like we did it wrong, which is often my argument about it. The whole show needed to look elevated.
yeah,
And if I'm really specific about a lamp, anybody with and let's face it, lots of gays are going to watch this and then have opinions about the decoration. And if it looks cheap and tacky, then we haven't done it right. So I think uh, we we have a bit of leeway in what we put. I think it's more important to look elevated than period correct when your period is so close to present day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like you're like 20 years out and well, no, it is 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah, but we didn't have like there weren't big design moments.
No,
But like the scene in Regina, there's like a sign.
on a
That's kind of
wall.
it. There was something on Facebook. A woman said that she was watching it with her blue collar husband, who's an electrician, and in that scene, he called out the lights on the wall that they didn't exist in that year, which is amazing. And like nobody, we don't. You'd have to be an electrician to know that.
That is
Also,
amazing.
yeah, and we didn't have the luxury of climbing up there and changing it. Even if we did know, we probably wouldn't have done anything about it. We've never done anything that has developed this kind of level of fandom before, so it's all very new to us too.
It's yeah, we do tend to go deep when we're picking our fandom stuff. We like to really look at everything minutia because it's got to the point now where we're like 4 months in, there's nothing 4 months? Yeah, 4.5. There's nothing to watch new, so we're like, we have to rewatch it and see what else we can find. So
Yeah.
what was the stuff that you were really happy with, that you really liked?
Um, the dinner, the Moscow dinner after the funeral,
Yeah.
um, that location is insane. Like it's in Hamilton and it's a defunct restaurant. They just rented out uh, for for film and TV. And where the table was, there's carpet on the floor, but when you walk in that room, you can like it's like it's over dirt. It's the weirdest thing. The floor is all uneven and it's like mafia restaurant and they just bury the like they pull the carpet back and bury the bodies. It's the weirdest place. And it had a really good look, but that was my lamp game was really strong in that scene. There was some in the back that you don't even see that were just insane.
Okay.
Um, and I was hoping they would run them along the dining table, but they always complain about that. And it was camera that put them on the table, which was the right call for sure. Um, but I thought the atmosphere in there was because so much of it is Vegas. It's ceremony. It's contemporary and modern and clean and whatever. We
Mm.
didn't get to do a lot of that kind of gritty stuff, which is always fun. So um, Alexi's apartment, that like when we finally got to do some grit, it was fun to get to do it. And the cottage turned out really, really well, even though I think we had 2 shooting days there, and the weather was terrible. So how they got the scenes that they got, I'm surprised because it was cold and it was rainy.
Oh, speaking of rain, it's just started hammering it down here. Lovely. Yeah, that cottage was gorgeous. Lovely.
Oh, and it's crazy too. Like there's a gym in the basement and a media room, and like it just goes on and on.
See that house, it just blows my mind. Filmmaking is crazy to me, but I just love it. Like how that gym in the basement,
That was in Elia's.
that was in Ilias, yeah. Like one of the gyms in the house, and they used that for one of the scenes at the start. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I love it.
And that's kind of what I mean about how they spent money and how
Yeah,
they wrung everything out of a location that they could in
like
an
really
efficient way.
economical with it.
Yeah, and it's good for us too because then we can knock down a bunch of stuff all at once, and it's not loading everything in trucks and going to a million different locations. It's smart, and I don't think it's going to change for season two. I don't think we're going to get much of a bump in budget, and I don't think um, they're going to really change the way they attack it, which I think is smart.
It might be
I
a bit
think
easier for you storytelling wise because the story's not quite so spread out, I suppose. Um,
you probably know more about that than I do. But that makes sense because we will have a home studio this time. We're actually in a studio.
oh, that's good.
Um, so that a studio to me implies that we're going to build more. And that makes sense. But you know what, too? Building means more work for me,
Yeah. But then once
which
it's
is
built,
fine.
done, right? Is that right? How it would work or
Yeah, but it just depends on what it is. Like if it will probably be apartments, like Scott's penthouse.
oh yeah, we haven't talked about Scott's penthouse actually.
Um, Art did a beautiful job. All the cupboards are fake. Um, that is what is it called? It's a royal suite or something in a hotel downtown.
Oh, okay.
But Art did a beautiful job of fake cupboards, and we brought in the island. Um, but everything else was there, right? These giant sofas that probably retail for $25,000. We can't afford that. I can't rent it. Nobody has it here. If I'm renting it, I'm renting it from a retailer, and that's always scary because if a grip sits on it with a marker in his pocket, we've just bought it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And that happens because they always sit on your furniture. Um, so that that's another example of the locations doing a lot of the work for us. I spent a lot of money on throw pillows, right? Because I didn't have to worry about the couch, things like that. And I think that is going to continue in the next season.
cool. Yeah, I do think you will have a marginally easier time. I obviously can't speak to it because I don't know all the ins and outs, but I think time-wise, you're not going to be popping about all over the place, so it will be a little bit easier in
Yeah,
that respect.
yeah, hope so. I
Cool.
mean, those guys are going to have trailers this year for sure because they
Yeah.
did not have trailers last time.
Yeah, I think they'll have a better time of it as well. But it's kind of like my comfort show now. It's become that.
I love that. I think that's great. It is.
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot. That it is that lots of people are watching it multiple times, and that doesn't happen very often.
It's really, really good. I'm just it's so nice that it didn't. I mean, with all due respect to Canada, I'm glad that it didn't stay there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the funny thing was, um, so Bell Media, I think, put up a lot of the money. They were sort of
Mhm.
the corporate, and they were around. They were around a lot for that position. Um, and they never tried to fiddle with it, right? Like they never tried to flex, they never tried to make any sort of changes. And the vibe was like when I read the scripts in prep, I was like, these are great, but who's going to air it? There was really a sense of, is this just going to be another one of those shows that we make and then never see again? There was really a vibe like that. It was not a given. So when it really hit the way it hit, the fact that had happened in its creation made the hit feel better.
Yeah. This is my heated rivalry tattoo.
Would it? Oh my God, you're amazing. That's amazing.
My husband puts up with a lot. You said,
Oh,
what is
that's
it? Have you
great.
figured out what it is?
Yes. Yeah. I think I know the scene. Good for you.
Let's just say it was backlit by a lamp.
Yes, exactly.
The silhouette. It's very nice. I'm just eking out questions to ask you now, and I don't know what else to say. But I've enjoyed talking to you.
Me too. Thank you very much for reaching out.
Oh, it's been really good fun. And like I said, so interesting because you like just in your first email back, you said there's so much that goes into it that people don't know about. And I was like, well, we need to know about it.
Well,
Um,
and the interesting thing too is that we do always, no matter what we're working on, engage in that level of detail. It's just not uh, it, we just don't usually have this kind of scrutiny, right? So it's kind of great to have people actually notice our work because too, TV is here. a lot of the times, and so we really are the blurs in the back. So with this kind of attention, it's kind of, we feel like, oh great, you saw that, you noticed that, that's
Yay.
great, and you enjoyed it. That's, we
Yeah,
appreciate that.
we really, really did. I mean, it's such a like you said, it's got this like elevated look to it. And I think without all of your work, that wouldn't be possible because it's seen in that wide shot
Yeah,
more often than not. I mean, there's so many shots where we see them from afar or we see them like wide apart. And yeah, it really does stand out. And I think you all did an amazing job on it. I can't wait. Well, I
well,
think we all
thanks.
can't wait for season two. And you said in your email that you're looking forward to making some different choices in season two. So I'm very excited for that as well.
Yeah, well, and the thing about my job is that I get to make decisions that play on camera all the time, um, in a way that a lot of other people can't say that. Um, like the black sheet, Ilya's black sheets, that was mine.
Yes, you
That,
said about the sheets right at the start.
oh God, there were so, we killed ourselves on the sheets, and you, my, I watched the show and I went, okay, noted. They don't have sex in the bed; they have sex on the bed. We don't have to iron the sheets anymore. We ironed. Oh God, that's all we did. I went on a Saturday to change out the sheets in Ilya's room because Svetlana, they were shooting Svetlana the next day. Like, it was just, anyway. But when I saw the black sheets and I knew it was going to be sexy, and James was like, I don't know, and I knew that it would be great. But when I actually saw that episode with their skin tone against the sheets, it looked so good. So stuff like that. I'm like, that wouldn't have happened without me.
There you go.
With the hotels, I had to avoid prints as much as possible because it's not hotel like. It would turn it domestic. So I was a bit limited on what that stuff was going to be. Toronto. The whole thing about that set was primary colors and geometry. So the art was all geometric in Shane's team colors, partly. And so why I pulled that one was just because they were big and graphic and primary. And that's, in my mind, fit what was going on with the art. Right.
Also, now I feel like we haven't talked about the hotel room, so I'm going to have to email you and ask you for your references because now you've said, so this room was all Shane's hotel, like primary colors and Shane's. I'm like, hang on, we haven't discussed
Well,
this at all.
I can, if I think it would be okay for me to send you a couple of the boards just as reference if you want. I was watching this filmmaker on Instagram talk. She was obsessed with how the show was shot, and she had really interesting insights. And she mentioned at one point, at least one person from the shooting crew was in touch with her and was telling her how certain shots were achieved.
Oh, is it
So
Valentina V?
yes, her. Yeah,
Mhm.
I thought she did a lovely job of breaking down the show.
Amazing. Yeah.
Um, so I feel like uh, I'm not giving anything away to show you the process. And it's also a season that we've already done and that has been released. So I can give you some of that stuff,
That
and
would
you
be
can use it.
amazing.
I
Yeah.
think I think it's probably fine. I can't think, if you get a cease and desist, let me know. But I think it'll be fine. Is that, you got what you need?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
This has been really fun. And thank you very much for talking to me.
No, I really appreciate it. It is fun. I'll send you those boards right now.
Oh, amazing. And I will pore over them because I'm just going to be really interested. Oh, okay. So thank you so much and have a great day. And I'll
You
speak to you
too.
soon.
Thanks, Emma. Nice to meet you.
You too. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.